Here's more proof that AWP did more than one dive at Prosser Lake. Doug is 3 steps from the bottom of the trailer door ramp to the big crack in the concrete on the left. Now, when Doug and Nick return to the trailer is farther away from the waterline than when they launched Doug and Nick's boat less than 2 tiny hours earlier. Now look how far the bottom of the trailer door is from the big crack in the concrete. When they launched Doug's boat at 10:41 a.m., the bottom of the trailer ramp door is only 1 boat length away from the waterline. This pylon is only 3 feet away from the waterline. As you can see, there are 3 pylons on both sides of the boat launch. There is no tent set up at the side of the trailer. There is still no tent set up, and it is now after 10:41 a.m. Again, when Doug and Nick return to the trailer is farther away from the water line, and now there is a tent set up beside the trailer. And now there are only 2 pylons on both sides of the boat launch. Could the trailer have been moved after they launched Doug and Nick's boat, so other people could use the boat launch while Doug and Nick were out on the water? Sure, but this is not what happened. Even if they moved the trailer so others could use the boat launch, they would not waste their time moving the pylons, because the pylons were not in the way of others using the boat launch. The crew knew that, in a matter of time, they would be backing the trailer in again to pick Doug and Nick up. So assume they moved the trailer after Doug and Nick were on the water. And now assume they backed the trailer up again to pick Doug and Nick up, which would explain why the trailer is now parked in a different spot than when they launched Doug and Nick's boat 2 hours earlier. Would they then move the pylons way over here after backing the trailer in? No.
We need to do this as quietly as possible.
If Doug called the crew to tell them to back the trailer in because Doug and Nick were returning and everyone was moving to Kiely Point, would those people still be sitting under the tent? No. Those people would already be dismantling the tent because they would have already been told they were moving everything over to Kiely Point.
No one at camp can know what we're doing.
So Doug did not call ahead to tell them they were returning to the boat launch. Once Doug and Nick returned to the boat launch, that's when they told the crew that they were moving everything to Kiely Point. So the crew dismantled the tent, packed it up, and moved everything to Kiely Point. But since Doug did not call the crew ahead of time, and since the trailer was already backed in when Doug and Nick returned to the boat launch, how did the crew already know when to back the trailer back in? I'll tell you how. Because the crew never moved the trailer after they launched Doug and Nick's boat at 10:41 a.m. And the reason the trailer is in a different spot, and farther away from the water line, is because this was the second time AWP was at the boat launch. Also +2, and, furthermore,
the water level since the 6th has also dropped a vertical 3.5 to 4 feet.
Prosser Lake was being drained on the daily, and the water level height in AWP's video when they launched Doug and Nick at 10:41 a.m. and when Doug and Nick returned to the boat launch shortly after noontime is completely different. There is no way the lake could be drained by over 2 feet in a couple of hours. Draining the lake by over 2 feet would take way more than 1 full day. The sun spots on the buoy proved there was at least 1 dive in the morning time and another dive after 12 p.m. in the afternoon. However, the sun spots do not prove whether AWP did both dives on the same day or on different days. But when they launched Doug and Nick's boat at 10:41 a.m., all 3 pylons on the right side of the boat launch were sitting directly on top of the concrete. However, when Doug and Nick returned to the boat launch, the number 2 pylon on the right side of the boat launch was no longer sitting on the concrete. Why is this so? I'll tell you why. Because AWP was at the boat launch at two completely different times of a day. The two different water level heights, as seen in AWP's video, proves that the footage AWP used at Prosser Lake was filmed on two different days. Therefore, AWP's own video proves that AWP did at least two different dives on two different days. At the 1:29 timestamp mark in my worldwide award-winning video, called Call Me If You Get Lost, Part 55, I said that one day I would figure out how many dives AWP did. Well, that day finally came, because, as you can see, today is the day I figured it all out. Josh is wearing two different shirts because he's being filmed on two different days. So, AWP did at least two dives on at least 2 days. This would explain why one of AWP's sonars shows a time of 12 p.m. and the other shows a time of 3 p.m. In AWP's video, AWP used footage from their dives on both days when they edited together their How We Found Kiely video. AWP used some footage from their Saturday dive on Prosser Lake and some footage from their Sunday dive at Prosser. Therefore, AWP found Kiely's SUV on Saturday. This is why they were in no rush to get on the water as soon as possible on Sunday. AWP were up by 6 a.m. on Sunday, yet they never got on the water until 10:41 a.m. Why would they waste over 4 hours doing nothing if they still had not found Kiely's SUV yet? Therefore, AWP found Kiely's SUV on Saturday, air ballooned over it on Sunday, then acted like geniuses by falsely claiming they found her SUV within 45 minutes after getting on Prosser Lake for the first time at 10:41 a.m. on Sunday.
Time is 10:41. By 11:15 a.m., Nick detected an object underwater using cutting-edge Garmin sonar technology.
Now, after Kiely's SUV was found, Doug said his first phone call was going to be to the family, and his second call would be to the authorities.
Call the authorities.
We help families all across the nation, and when we find out, they are notified first. So we're going to notify them first. My very next call will be to local authorities.
However, Doug's first call was to Jared. Jared posted Kiely's find on Facebook before Doug called the family or police. Jared posted on Facebook at 2:28 p.m., and Doug only called the family at 2:48 p.m.
Once we confirmed it was indeed Kiely's vehicle, we immediately notified family, law enforcement, and Dad and Grandpa were on scene within minutes.
Doug admits Dad
Yes, sir.
and Grandpa arrived within minutes of getting the call, and SF Investigates showed video proof that he, Dad, and Grandpa arrived at Kiely's point at 2:50 p.m. This proves Doug was off the water before 3 p.m., which also proves that the 3 p.m. time of day shown on AWP's sonar was from a different day, and not from Sunday. So Doug gets caught being dishonest again, as Doug's first call was to Jared and not to the family. Unreal. And why would Josh zoom in on one spot that just happens to be the very spot where Kiely's SUV would eventually be found? And whose SUV was really found that day? The police, the family, and AWP all claim Kiely's SUV was silver in color.
Kiely Rodni was last seen August 6, 2022. She was driving a silver 2013 Honda CR-V.
while Sammy said Kiely's SUV had a sunroof.
Silver
Yeah,
car
and there's a
with
sunroof as well.
So why was a white SUV with no sunroof pulled out of the lake?
Developing news, a body that's presumed to be 16-year-old Kiely Rodni has been found in a reservoir near the Northern California campsite where she disappeared. A group of private divers found a white SUV with a body inside the Prosser Creek Reservoir.
Sammy also stressed that Kiely's SUV had Honda hubcaps, not rims. Yet the SUV pulled from Prosser has rims, not hubcaps.
Her car does have hubcaps because in a lot of these pictures, cars don't have hubcaps. Her car has Honda hubcaps.
Kiely's silver Honda SUV had never been found until reportedly today.
Since news reports claim Kiely's SUV was never reportedly found until that Sunday, when was it really found? Why don't you tell us, AWP? This concludes my very first ever lame text-to-voice video. So thanks for watching. Please hit the like button and be sure to tell your flick-friendly friends about my channel.